814 days, and since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss and his life was taken from him. It's July 20th, 2025, and I'm coming on a little bit early. Wow, it's not even 11 o'clock here yet. Um, so we're doing good on this Sunday. I hope everyone had a great Sunday. Um, we are absolutely giving thanks to God for all his blessings in this case, um, because so much is happening behind the scenes and we're getting closer and closer. We're not stagnant, okay? We're not stagnant. We're not just pedaling, okay? We're not just wading in the water. We are absolutely moving forward. And unlike the Walmart mass shooting civil case, now the Walmart mass shooting civil case, which has was filed in October of 2019. It seems to have just faded away. It seems to be very stagnant, and for good reason. If you read through it, and of course, Ernest Christopher Grant and Donna Sifford are part of that case. And they were seeking huge amounts of money. Okay, you're talking about in the millions, in the millions. Um, and when you read the case, you absolutely, especially if you've been following, our story, if you've been following this Facebook page, uh, and all of what the live streams that I've been uh, talking about, and all the posts, and of course, all the videos and music videos about Patrick Crucius, about the application for appointed counsel, about Joe Spencer's audios that we received, all the hard evidence that we received that absolutely show the tampering of the case, the seals, the deals that are all illegal, the illegal DAs, the illegal judges, the illegal chief medical examiner, the tampering with autopsy or death certificates, the fraud that was going on with the Walmart mass shooting victims fund, um, impersonation, the media leaving out, having knowledge about the Mayella family, the marriage between Alexis Mayella and Patrick Crucius, who is the shooter in the Walmart mass shooting case, is married to Brian Blake Crucius, Patrick Crucius's brother, and they were just sitting on it. They had it early on. They knew that the Mayellas were part of this case and that Michael Mayella Jr. Was in the Walmart cybersecurity, working Walmart cybersecurity, also in the FBI El Paso field office, also with DA, working in the DA's office with Jaime Esparza during this time, and Priscilla Mata, and James Montoya, James 2028 Montoya. They absolutely knew about Michael Mayella, that his father was the manager managing the cases in the federal courthouse where Patrick Crucius's case was being heard under Judge um, Guadarrama Campos, I should say David Campos Guadarrama, and it's very interesting. All these names keep repeating themselves, um, and proven to be a no good actor. This Judge Guadarrama has proven to be a no good actor, and absolutely, I suspect him of being part of the orchestration because of Sam Madrano, and Joe Spencer's audio tape saying that he was making an agreement with Judge Guadarrama and Judge Medrano for the pay that he was going to get, that he wanted an open checkbook. And he was doing this before uh, before the 4th of August 2019 at 5:42, 5:43 in the morning. Um, early in the morning on a Sunday morning was the approval of I mean, they just sped that through so quick, the approval of appointed counsel to give a Joe Spencer an open checkbook, you know, and Judge Madrano wasn't even on the case yet, right? And all of the manipulation that's in these audios that we have revealed show that there is so much wrong with the Walmart mass shooting, and that what is wrong absolutely points over and over and over again to a cartel, political, criminal trafficking, military operation to target President Trump and his border security policies, what he was doing um, at the border to target him and any whistleblower like our son Richard Halliday that was corroborating the criminal trafficking that was going on at the border, needing breaching border security, breaching Fort Bliss security, and corroborating what President Trump's administration was doing was the right thing for the United States. And they didn't like that. So, anyone that corroborated what President Trump was doing, they wanted a very negative narrative on President Trump. That's why they brought in severely mentally uh, handicapped, um, with a severe mental health condition, Patrick Crusius, including a severe autism, and they brought him in to be a Pat C, and he even signed his name on the application, Pat C. I mean, God just is telling you, right? God, they didn't mean it to be that way, but God meant it to be that way, and to let everyone know that he's a patsy. Now, of course, with his severe mental health condition, he was part of this group, the Mayellas. He was part of this group. Ernest Christopher Grant. Ernest Christopher Grant was part of this group with the Mayellas because every narrative that he said was absolutely coming from the mouth of the devil. And what do I mean by that? The devil is the king of the liars. And absolutely, Ernest Christopher Grant has been caught by the El Paso Police Department and by all the evidence to be lying over and over and over again. And so, when he speaks, it seems like it's just a lie over and over and over again. And the media was behind him, covering for him, and producing segments with Chris Cuomo, with even Fox News. What was that guy's name on Fox News? They even brought out pictures of his like wounds, um, because no one believed him. Because here he is flailing his arms and sitting up like a day after he's shot twice in the back with an AK-47 style rifle. Nothing made sense. And after being dragged through the Walmart and put into the back of a truck, if you've ever had major surgery, which I have, you absolutely know that that is just not going to happen. And you would absolutely have drainage tubes and everything that would not allow for you to sit up like that, to flail your arms around like that, to do the hugging of Donna uh, suffered the way he did. Now, did he have wounds? It might have been a smaller gauge. We don't know what he was shot with. We don't know all the details. We know that in a month he was up in Austin, trying to um, go against the Second Amendment, right? Trying to do gun control with Governor Abbott. We know that he was the media sweetheart. Everywhere you look, there's so many stories about Ernest Christopher Grant. And then all of a sudden, he was ghosted. They just faded him away. And the thing is when they were parading him around as the media sweetheart and saying, you have to understand what he was saying, what Ernest Christopher Grant was saying, what happened in that Walmart, that the video that I keep posting absolutely demonstrates that that's not what happened. Okay, that's not what happened. There's no evidence to support what Ernest Christopher Grant was saying over and over and over again, hypnotizing the population with his vile and vulgar uh, um, narrative that he wanted everyone to think happened in the Walmart, and it didn't. It didn't happen like that. Um, and he even doubled, on it with the Fox News. But when you watch the video, he never mentions Alexander Gerhard Hofmann, the German national. The German national is clearly the one that was executed there with a headshot. Um, and that's what you see in the video. And, you don't see anything else out of place, except for the police seem to be out of place. They don't seem to be doing their job. They don't seem to be securing the crime scene around Alexander Hofmann. People are walking over him, taking pictures of him. This is tampering with the crime scene. And they're not corralling the witnesses to take names, to take um, uh, notes on their witness statements. They're not securing the Walmart at all. It's just, it is so different than what Ernest Christopher Grant said over and over and over again. And Patrick Crusius himself um, is, they didn't even get a good person to play this part of such a wicked person. He doesn't look like he has a wicked bone in his body. And yet, of course, he did admit to shooting one or two people. Okay. But you're talking about a narrative, cold blooded, people praying, I mean, just the most vile um, narrative, horrifying, terrorizing when you hear it. And it was false. It was false. And so, um, and we, of course, we have the official that absolutely, a really big official that said that the crime scene was staged afterwards. They didn't secure it for over 2 days. So they had plenty of time to tamper with the scene, to stage the scene, to bring things in, to take things out. So it was horrifying. And that official left country, okay, left the country. And it is really uh, very obvious that when you read the Walmart civil case that has now not proceeded 6 years, they have not proceeded, even though they do have good points about Walmart not having security there. Right? They have a very good point on that. They could have shut the door, because Ernest Christopher Grant says he first spotted the shooter outside. Well, why didn't they shut the door? Why didn't they secure the door? It's very, very easy to do that. Um, But but the whole what really actually happened and what Ernest Christopher Grant was saying is two different things. And not only Ernest Christopher Grant, Donna Sifford, when you listen to what she said, she is absolutely part of this. She's a wicked woman, a very wicked woman. And they absolutely misled, hypnotized um, the people of El Paso and Mexico and Germany. Don't forget, Germans were really watching this because Germans were absolutely concerned because a German national had been executed in a very brutal way. And so the world was watching this, and Ernest Christopher Grant was paraded over and over and over again with this very false narrative that was anti Trump, that was deliberate in making Trump look bad. Matter of fact, when Trump wanted to meet with him, when he came to El Paso, he refused. And so President Trump invited him to the White House, and he ended up getting arrested because there was an open warrant out for his arrest. He was a criminal. He is a criminal. He was a criminal before the Walmart mass shooting. And so it's a very, very happy day for me yesterday and then again today to announce that he has been arrested, that Ernest Christopher Grant has been arrested again. And I can tell you right now that his family were up to no good, absolutely up to no good, and absolutely connected in ways that connects him with our son, Richard Halliday. Okay, and that will all come out. That will all come out with time, but he's absolutely um, connected to our son, Richard Halliday. And the Walmart mass shooting, I put out some questions today. What if the Walmart mass shooting was an operation that the cartel, uh, was doing with the factions or inner fighting? And I didn't put that out, but I did um, mention that before in some of my live streams. And it really has come up again because in Juarez right now, with the Sinaloa cartel, there is inner fighting, right? There are different factions in the Sinaloa cartel, and the El Mayo faction just put up all these signs across Juarez against the Mexican Pan Party, Eugenia, Maria Eugenia Campos Galvan. She is the governor of Chihuahua, Mexico, and she is Sinaloa. She's Sinaloa cartel, and but she politically belongs to the Pan Party, PAN, the Pan Party, and that faction is in conflict now with El Mayo Zapata, whose lawyer, Ray Velarde, was assigned to Richard to control Richard's case. Now, why did they do that, right? They were controlling the whistleblower and to try to discredit the whistleblower, to control the case, and also to have access to files. When he was assigned, he had access to Richard's files and Richard's information. So that gave the El Mayo access to Richard's files. And El Mayo, just not too long ago, was set up. He was framed himself, and he was illegally extradited to the United States, to Santa Teresa port of entry, right there. It's in New Mexico, but it's El Paso. It's in that same vicinity, and they then extradited him to New York. He was with El Chapo's son, Guzman, and And so, he's not very happy right now. And there's this conflict going on in Juarez. And it is conflicts with the different factions of this, from what I understand now. Many of you, thank you, Martha, for coming on. Thank you, Carl, for coming on. Um, and thank you for your prayers and your love. But if you understand these different factions in the Sinaloa cartel, God bless you and please help me. Please, you know, uh, but, isn't Trump really brilliant? Because he designated the Sinaloa cartel an FTO, right? An FTO. Go look that up. I don't want to say it because I might get shadow banned or something. But, that really put Sinaloa cartel into a lot of trouble because anybody doing business with them before they could do business freely in the United States. Matter of fact, they have access. They have total access in the United States. But now, if you are doing business with them, you're aiding and abetting a FTO, right? And that hasn't stopped Governor Abbott of Texas. He is doing something really crazy, or his administration is doing something really crazy, leading him to do something really crazy. And that is to hold meetings with um, um, the governor of Juarez, um, Maru, Maru Campos, that's Governor Campos, and making deals, security deals, intelligence deals with her. And this is illegal. This is very illegal. And being Sinaloa and being part of the Pan Party, it makes it even worse. It makes it even worse. He's um gosh, you know, just because you're governor and you have all this power and this status to get away with this, um doesn't mean you should do it, right? Doesn't mean you should do it. And that's why we need to vote in people that have um, that have morals. We really need to vet the people that take office because taking that office gives them so much immunity, right? You have the presidential immunity. You have everyone talking about um, Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence. Also, she's active duty U.S. Army. I mean, well, she's reserves. She's a lieutenant colonel in the Army. We can't forget that. And she came out with recommendations to indict former President Obama with treason. Okay, with treason, and it's taken root. It's taken root. We'll see if Pam Bondi, the Department of Justice, actually indict him. But people are saying, wait a minute, he's a former president. They have immunity, right? They have immunity. So with these great positions, there comes a lot of perks and a lot of protections. Um, and therefore, we have to really vet who we put in office. And therefore, what they did with the Walmart mass shooting, what Ernest Christopher Grant did with all his false narrative that was so vile, y'all, it was so vile. It was so false and so vile, right? To make President Trump look so bad to affect the election, to affect the election, to hurt our Second Amendment rights, to divide the country, to divide the world, to divide El Paso, to really divide Mexico with this. It was so bad, and because they're messing with elections, it really is a major, major crime. And so I can absolutely agree with like General Flynn, who's saying that what they did in 2015 and 16, or 2016 and 17, um, all their planning and conniving and conspiring and everything to get the Russia gate and all the other things they did against President Trump, um, was treason and was one of the biggest crimes, if not the biggest crime in U.S. history. But Walmart is the same. It's the same playbook. It is to affect the reputation, the policies, and also the reelection campaign for 2020 for President Trump. He was a target once again. And it was the same intelligence and law enforcement and judicial bad players that were in those positions that carried out. I mean, my goodness, Michael Mayella Sr. is the federal courthouse manager. He has access to all those cases, y'all. He manages all those cases, including the Walmart mass shooting case. And uh, his, his daughter married Patrick Crusius's brother, and no one said anything. No one recused him. No one reported on this. And his son was in the Walmart cybersecurity during the time and in the FBI field house, had access to cases, and also in the DA's, the district attorney, the prosecutor's office with Jaime Esparza and with James 2028 stamp Montoya. Well, I should say Bono Montoya, and no one's saying anything. No one's saying. I mean, this was absolutely deliberate from start to finish, and it was absolutely a plot against President Trump. And any witness or whistleblower that got in the way, like Richard Halliday, before before the Walmart mass shooting or after the Walmart mass shooting, then they were silenced, and they were silenced in the worst. They were targeted. They were targeted, and they were silenced in the worst way, because their main objective was to uh, isolate President Trump so much, give him no support at all, and discredit him so much that he would not even have a chance um, in his policies during his presidency or in his reelection campaign. And so it really is treason. It really was. And so that's why what the generals did in this, I call it treason. And it's very simple. When you put all the evidence together that we have, uh, you can see it very clearly that this was an operation. And it seems like the media, of course, had a hand in producing this uh, uh, this production, right? Orchestration, um, because none of this could have happened without the media uh, being in play with this. And we absolutely understand how the politicians, the narco politicians, can be part of this, and of course the cartel and those that are getting the big um, defense contracts or the big ISD, the Independent School District contracts there. We can see why those that are involved in the criminal trafficking, what motivates them to do such things. But the media is absolutely complicit in this, and um, and we need to do something about that, because we need an uh, at least a halfway honest media, right? Not giving them a 501c3 like El Paso Matters has, and saying they're going to be neutral, and then they're not. They're totally attack dogs. And then when you have, even so, to cover up, to not even cover up, Bob Moore actually participated in the targeting of our son through A&R Chavira Auto Group, right? With with the cartel. He targeted Richard. He was part of the framing, um, the trying to set Richard up, to discredit Richard, to frame him as early as um, January of 2020. So they were plotting this in 2019, to silence Richard, to target him and silence him. And Bob Moore was part of that. And so not only did he participate in the targeting of Richard, and silencing him, but also in the cover up. In the cover up and the false narrative in the cover up. Um, that is, it's it makes so much sense now, but it's so horrible to live through, and he needs to be held accountable for that, and we need to absolutely address that, um, as we uh, forward, you know, in whatever power that we can, because we are a government that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. Okay. It's all about us. And if we don't understand that, if we depend on Congress people and senators and the media and presidents and intelligence community and law enforcement to do to make this country great, uh, I think we're going to be very, very disappointed. This is a country of the people, by the people, and for the people, and so we need to participate in that. We need to make sure that those entities are doing their job, and that they're not bloating. Like everything is. The intelligence community is bloated. It's so big, and just like our 4-star generals, it was just so big, so many of them. We went all the way to 44 during World War II. We had seven, and we had 10 times more troops than we do now. And so it's just always, bloated because of taking advantage of taxpayer funds, right? Taxpayer funds wanting to run on that. And uh, so when you look at the evidence, it's very obvious that Ernest Christopher Grant doesn't have, uh, geez, I was going to say an analogy, but I'm going to change my mind. I'm not going to say it. Just say his narrative has been totally debunked, and they don't have a lawsuit. They really don't have a lawsuit, because a lawsuit would expose something really, really horrible. And I think that there were some factions that were getting stirred up uh, with President Trump's election in 2016, and in 2017 they were really getting stirred up, and some people were getting afraid because they were closing down the border, and he was investigating, he was auditing the weapons, of course, on Fort Bliss, and also the children, all the trafficking, all of that. President Trump was investigating. There was even investigations into Walmart because of the Walmart gift cards and the banking there that were used for money laundering of the cartels. So this was all happening just like what's going on right now in Juarez. There is a factions war, a factions conflict. And I believe that's what was going on there. And I believe that um, these victims were caught in the middle of a factions war. Um, Absolutely, because no way, when you look at the video, was that like a random mass shooting by a young, severely autistic individual like Patrick Crucius. No, I believe there were multiple shooters. I believe this was orchestrated. I believe that and plus we have evidence for it, that they were absolutely targeting certain people like Alexander Gerhard Hofmann wrote. I think he was targeted before, and that was uh, uh, a hit job. That's what that absolutely looks like. It's a professional hit. And there's others in this that got caught in this shooting, but others that were also brutally, their lives were taken from them. So, and in a way, only professionals could do it. Okay, only professionals, because you have to remember there is a long history of mass shootings, and then when you look at those cases, they have similarities, and one of the similarities is when you have a young man like Patrick Crucius, who has no record beforehand, and if he takes life, and of course, he was totally clean, right? He's totally clean, and he surrendered himself twice with no, just putting up his hands, being nice, no smirky remarks. Whereas Ernest Christopher Grant said that the shooter was taunting the children. There was not one little taunt in anything with Patrick Crucius ever. You know, I mean, they called him every little name, and he's just in all these years, we have years of when they let him out to view his behavior. And it was not what and I'm not defending him. I'm just saying the narrative doesn't fit. The narrative is false. And we don't have the whole narrative. So I'm making some speculation here from all the evidence that we have. And so if President Trump is the target over and over and over again, he knows things, doesn't he? And of course, the election absolutely looks like it got stolen in 2020, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. And so he had 4 years to really, he's not a man to just sit around and vacation, right? He absolutely gets to work right away and he doesn't stop. He's the energized bunny. And so through these 4 years, he absolutely knows who is who. And that's why 4 days after he took office on January 24th, 2025, there was a uh, declaration that Richard was killed in the line of duty right away. So what we got 4 days after. So he did that on like day one for us to get it so soon. And of course, he did a lot of things on day one. And he has been moving swiftly ever since. Um, and of course, that's why we have this exposure of the dumping grounds, the narco cartel dumping grounds of rotting bodies, hundreds of rotting bodies dumped at these crematoriums in Juarez, Mexico, that are connected with the funeral homes there in El Paso, and funeral homes that deal with Fort Bliss, that deal with um, Mario Raskin Ortiz, that deal with Solomone Nusa, um, which is the brother of the prime suspect in Richard's case, former CID agent Tavita Nusa, who had his badge terminated in 2021. Who is also family members to Leilani Hart, who needs to be arrested right away, and is also a prime suspect in our son's murder case, with her son, Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart. So, with Ernest Christopher Grant being with this group and him being arrested now, that is a huge indication because he absolutely has these ties. Um, and there's lots of hard evidence, y'all, to El Paso, to Juarez. He speaks Spanish. He said that on one of his media productions. But so the Walmart civil case has been debunked. as far as their narrative goes in the case that they had filed. I don't know if some of the real victims will try to file another case. I don't know, but the way they put that file, and I put the link up, you can read it. Just go to the Walmart mass shooting civil case and read through it. It is, one of the things, it kind of outlines how Patrick Crucius walked through the Walmart, what all was happening in there. And when you watch the video, none of that is there. None of that is there. So they would have a very hard time moving forward with that case. It's been debunked. And so that's why after 6 years, you just see no movement in it at all. And Christopher Grant and Donna Sifford were trying to make a mint from it. They were trying to make a mint. And he's a criminal, and so is she. Absolute criminals, um, and the worst type of criminals, and they need to be held to account to the fullest extent. I know President Trump wants to get the big fish, right? The big fish like Obama, like Clapper, like Comey. There's other big fish, um, but uh, people like Ernest Christopher Grant, it's a good day to know that he's been arrested. And I hope Donna Sifford gets arrested too for what she was a CBP officer. She absolutely abused her office, her position. Absolutely abused it. So L- so that really proves President Trump right all along, right? He's right all along with Richard's case. He's right all along with the Walmart case. He's right all along with Obamagate. He's right all along with the intelligence community and the Department of Justice being weaponized against him. He's right all along with all of that. And then he came out and said that Jeffrey Epstein's this case is a hoax, is a hoax. And everybody went crazy. Everyone went crazy. Well, a lot of people went crazy. Not everyone. I didn't go crazy. Um, but I did start researching. I didn't totally go out in agreement with him, but I sure didn't say one thing against what he was saying because he has a record of being right all the time. So I just kept like, okay, well, I know that Jeffrey Epstein is important to the criminal trafficking case of our son. And so I researched it. And of course, Jeffrey Epstein owned Zorro Ranch. Zorro Ranch, which shared, doesn't anymore, because he was leasing land from New Mexico. New Mexico uh, uh, gave him a lot of power by leasing him land that was bordering on White Sands Missile Range, sharing protected airspace. Okay, protected airspace. And he had, of course, a landing strip with a hangar on his property, which was huge, 10,000 acres. Uh, a huge, huge property that was the northeast side, well, right by Stanley, New Mexico, but that's where the house ranch was. But the land extended south to White Sands Missile Range, and White Sands Missile Range is huge, very sensitive area. It's where the drones. They do a lot of development on drones. They do a lot of development on missiles, on other weapons, including high altitude. High altitude. I mean, it's there are uh, these balloons are so big. Remember that Chinese balloon that was transversing our skies? This is the kind of balloons that they launch at White Sands Missile Range. So it is a very highly sensitive area, and to give someone um, like Jeffrey Epstein, um, protective airspace and a border on that kind of top secret land is a big deal. It's a breach of national security. It, it's just disgusting, right? It's just disgusting. And so you can't cover that up because that was absolutely what was going on, right? It was absolutely so that made Jeffrey Epstein a very big deal. And we know all the criminal trafficking with the hundreds of thousands of children. We know all the substances. We know the weapons trafficking. And to have that protective airspace and to have those good roads that are out there and all that land and the bordering and so you could do all kinds of trucking and you have the military and all the resources of the military at your fingertips. That's really really concerning. um, but of course President Trump ended that, right? He ended that. um, Jeffrey Epstein died on the 10th of August, 2019. That's when he died, 7 days after the Walmart mass shooting. That death was a huge diversion of the intelligence community and the law enforcement community. Their eyes were then on New York and on Jeffrey Epstein and what happened instead of looking at Walmart mass shooting. The Walmart mass shooting that is absolutely tied to the treason against President Trump, so that they could protect the cartel criminal trafficking that was going on in this network of those that also want um, um, defense contracts and El Paso contracts. This was $1 billion network going on, and President Trump knew all about it, right? That's why Jeffrey Epstein was in prison, right? So in 2019, August 10th, Jeffrey Epstein uh, dies, right? And all eyes go to New York and don't even pay attention to the real crime, what's really happening, and that is El Paso and Fort Bliss, bordering Juarez, Mexico, right? El Paso bordering Juarez, Mexico, the home of Fort Bliss and White Sands Missile Range, the largest military installation that we have is White Sands Missile Range with super sensitive weapon development, drones, and high altitude, high pressure balloons going on. Um, it is stratospheric. I mean, that's how high they go. So it is, really, it, when he said Jeffrey Epstein, when President Trump said Jeffrey Epstein is a hoax, um, I had to really look at it because uh, Jeffrey Epstein's case has been dealt with, hasn't it? He's no longer alive. Zorro Ranch is no longer uh, um, in his hands. It the leases are no longer in Zorro's ranch's hands that I know of. He's dealt with that. Um, the emergency intake center, the death camp with the hundreds of thousands of children doesn't exist there on Fort Bliss anymore. So those things have all been dealt with. What hasn't been dealt with is the treason that went on with Obamagate, with El Paso Walmart mass shooting, and in our son's case. And so I think President Trump is absolutely right. The whole Epstein thing is a diversion, it's a hoax, it's been dealt with. They want to, and all the evidence, let's talk about the list and everything. We know in Richard's case, uh, that all and in the Walmart case that evidence has been tampered with, right? The crime scene was tampered with. Files have been tampered with. This is the intelligence community. These are trained hackers, trained cyber technicians like Michael Mayella, like Jonathan Ambrose, like Dallas Hart. Dallas Hart is a computer geek kind of. Well, I shouldn't call him a computer, but he's very handy with the computer. That's what he was going to school for. So they had plenty. The whole fam El Paso intelligence community behind that. So y- you know, these are individuals that have access into the VA, into your most sensitive files, and they knew things. I'm just telling you, they had access. And thank God that Richard is sparkling clean. Thank God our family is sparkling clean. And, because if you're a family that might have some other issues, they would absolutely use that against you. And I think that is so criminal of them. So criminal. So, eh, they play very, very dirty. They have access, and that's the problem. They have access to these cases and access to information, and they can weaponize it, right? And so this is the huge, huge crime in the Walmart case, and then even in the Jeffrey Epstein case, because they've had that case. They've done whatever they wanted to do to those files and tampering and this and that. And to Richard's file, they've cleansed some of the retaliation, most of the retaliation that they did to him. That was absolutely inhumane and torture and everything. Um, you know, the whistleblower reports and they've tampered with so much, right? And so absolutely they've tampered with the Epstein files, the Epstein list. And what are you going to do with that now, right? Because everyone we already know who's the real question is who's involved in the criminal trafficking, who's involved in the worst type of crimes against children. And President Trump's on that. He's totally on that. That's why Ernest Christopher Grant was arrested, because he's part of this group that is fraudulent, is part of the Walmart case, is part of Richard's case, is part of all kinds of criminal activity, which extends down into Mexico. And so, and he he was. I can absolutely understand why he was arrested. And I'm waiting for Leilani Hart to be arrested, because Leilani Hart, um, as Ernest Christopher Grant went after President Trump, Leilani Hart went after Richard Halliday's case, and of course, because her son was Richard's platoon leader. So, but you have the Noosa brothers. President Trump knows this, and that's why the the politics right now um, have exposed these body dumping grounds, these rotting body dumping ground. It's so vile. It's such a hum. Um, it's such a crisis for humanity. It really is. To have American bodies being transported into Mexico uh, to just be dumped, and the pictures are just absolutely horrible, y'all. So and for Bill Hicks to be appointed by Governor Abbott, uh, and it sounds like I'm going after these Republicans, um, but Veronica Escobar absolutely part of this, Beto O'Rourke absolutely part of this. Um, but for Bill Hicks being the lawyer for Purchase Funeral Homes, which is a Juarez based funeral home that has been given access to the El Paso market, who has many funeral homes now in El Paso, but they are based in Juarez, Mexico. And for him to be appointed as district attorney with that kind of conflict of interest is just unacceptable, right? You just have to, because then they have access to our soldiers, uh, to the remains, and then for Solomone Nusa to get access to that position, to have power over the remains of our service members, is absolutely disgusting. And for his brother, um, to be in the CID right there on Fort Bliss, and to be so compromised and so corrupt that they have to terminate his badge in 2021 tells you something, because badges don't get terminated very easily. You have to be pretty bad. And he's a prime suspect in our son's murder case. So this is really all coming together. Um, and we're just waiting for the next arrest. The next arrest. Is that going to be Obama? Is that going to be, some people say Hillary Clinton, some people say, but all eyes are on El Paso for us, because El Paso is the front door into the United States. It is the epicenter of all of this criminal trafficking, that, of course, was tied to Jeffrey Epstein. But Jeffrey Epstein was arrested. He lost his life. Uh, and, you know, um, now we need to move on to those that do the worst type of crimes against children, that have not been stopped, and they need to be stopped. And all of this treason needs to be absolutely accounted for. And President Trump came out tonight with this amazing video where he is absolutely saying that he's going to have accountability. So, yeah, we're going to do our part, because this is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And so, of course, we want accountability for our son, and we want our son's remains, and we want our country. We want our country. And we want our vote to count. We want fair elections, and fair vetting of our candidates. So that is what's going to make America great again. Um, that is that's it for tonight. I really appreciate all your sharing, coming on, staying with us for so many years. We're at 5 years, just about 5 years, and we just really appreciate it. Please share this story and try to understand it. Sometimes it can get a little convoluted, but stay with us, because the more you hear, the more it makes sense, and it becomes very, very important to the future of our country. Thank you so much. God bless you.